Hello and welcome to the Billion Dollar Broker Podcast. My name is Ross LeCane. I'm bringing my 25 years industry experience together with leading experts around the globe to give you the insights on how to live a better life and grow a profitable mortgage broking business that you are proud of. Welcome to another episode of the Billion Dollar Broker Podcast. I've got a good friend with me today, Ollie Lum from AAA Mortgages. Welcome aboard.
Thanks, Ross. I've been pretty I won't say excited. I've been curious how this chat was going to go because you've been a big part of my broking life since we connected a while ago. So yeah, pretty keen to hear where this goes. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I was keen to get you on board because not only you're a sort of top 100 broker, you're a good guy and you look at things differently. Right? In the world of mortgage brokers, I find that really refreshing, and I think your outlook on stuff a lot of brokers can learn from. So, really keen to unpack it and just, as you say, see where this conversation goes.
Sure, mate. My wife would probably agree with you with that, and it does her head in because when we try to communicate on things, I think we've realised over the years that everybody communicates differently, but she keeps saying that I communicate differently to other people. So yeah, you've got there's pluses and minuses, I guess, of thinking of being trying to do things differently, but all in all, it's pretty good fun.
Yeah, good. All right, so tell me, how I start this with everyone. Tell me how you got started in the broking industry.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward, this one for me. Actually, a couple of things. I'll actually side branch out to say I wouldn't have been, my ears wouldn't have been open to a change if I hadn't done a bit of self-work, right? So I was in the motor trade, just comfortable, and I read Elon Musk's book and I realized that, that trade is, I won't say dead, that's a bit strong, just not where I wanted my future to be on both personal level and a professional level. And I'd got a text from one of my best friend's wife who was like, do you want to, I've got an opportunity here, do you want to see what can come of that? And I was doing my Cert 4, but the key here was that if I hadn't done a bit of self-work with a therapist over some health anxiety, to be honest, I wouldn't have probably realized or really taken that opportunity. Because I remember actually I said it to and she's my GM at the moment now, Melissa. I said to her, oh, this would be perfect for me in 18 months time, and then when I read it, because of some of the work I've done, I was like, why the hell is it perfect for me in 18 months time? It's actually not. It's perfect for me now. And so yeah, then I got my start, and lucky to have a really good people above me to teach me the stuff as I go through. So yeah, that's how I got the start. It was a text message that I actually wanted to frame, but I can't find the damn message and send it to my now GM because it was a text message that changed my life for the better.
Yeah, amazing. And that lifestyle is something that's important, and it's interesting to hear that it came from a chat with your therapist that led you down the path of, I need to do something different with my life. So what was it that attracted you to mortgage broking that you thought would be different to working in the motor trade?
I think I'd had about 6 or 7 mortgages before. No, that's an exaggeration. I think I had like 3 or 4, just with some not great property purchases that I did, but I won't go there. And I thought it was kind of fun. There's an element of puzzle solving. There's a large element of people and interaction. And to be honest, it's lived up to way more than what I thought. I mean, it's exciting, right? I think I'm a sales guy, and I like being a sales guy. And what better product can you have than to sell than, one that changes every couple of hours, it almost feels like at the moment, And on the plus side, something I probably didn't realize when I started that I would enjoy so much is just the connections and relationships and fun that you can have with the actual people. So that's been the real fun for me. Clients, of course, but more so for me personally, it's been the actual industry as a whole. You get some really good people in finance, so I really enjoyed that part.
Oh, exactly. And that was a big motivation for me in terms of, staying in the broking industry after leaving, running a business for many years since sort of 2003 and in it till about 2019.
You've still got your hooks in there, mate. You've found your own, you've managed to create your own hooks there. So well done.
Yeah, exactly. So, and a big part of that motivation, as you said, is that, people, the people within the industry are great. There's a lot of good
Yeah,
people,
absolutely.
and a lot of people that, if you put your hand up, are prepared to help. So I see you're quite active on LinkedIn, and yeah, you present in a different way. Your marketing is in a different way, and I find that approach really refreshing. So, yeah, talk to me a little bit about. All right, so you got started, and again, for the people that are getting on that journey, how did you find coming from a totally different industry into the broking industry?
I might actually hook on to something else that you said and maybe circle that back to that, right? So you're right. I don't really do very much marketing. My GM does the marketing, but I enjoy doing the LinkedIn stuff, right? And I'm going to use that as a tag on, because the only reason why I started doing the LinkedIn stuff is I called one of my buddies who's got an Ocean Impact accelerator called Ocean Impact org. He started off with Manly, just in Watso, and I think it was around COVID, and we were just chatting. I do this quite a lot. I'll just call one of my mates at some stage, industry or non-industry, and we just start chatting about stuff. And I think he wasn't a client, but I did something for him. But anyway, he just off his own bat had a look at my LinkedIn. And I think that's right. He was going through funding, and he's a founder, and he was just, he was on a mad LinkedIn kind of networking part. And that's actually kind of, he built up his first 2 years with a marketing budget of zero. It was all on LinkedIn, and Bank Australia was his first major fund. I think they put up 50 grand in their first 2020 Ocean Pitch Fest. But that all just came from calling a mate, and the mate said, "Mate, your LinkedIn's pretty ordinary, right? Honestly, it's just like, mate, it's awful." I was like, "Well, what do you mean? What do I do?" And he goes, "Mate, you just do this, have a go." And I was like, "Okay, well, I did that just for fun," and that's kind of turned into a source of joy for me, really. Now, like, it's my only social outlet, but it's been really, really fun to do. But that kind of your kind of question was, what can people do to start out? Call every single person that you know that you think switched on, and ask them stuff. Talk to them about stuff. Find people. Challenge your ideas. You're going to find your market segment at some stage. And I mean, even still, I love tech and emerging, but that's not the bulk of my deals at the moment. It was for a little period, but your market will find you. And I think as things change more and more and more, we get to, like, the hybrid broker model, and other, new tech comes out, and the demographics change, and the premium borrower kind of changes as time goes on. You're going to need to adapt. So having said that, I said with a grain of salt, when I did something at SFG PD Day a while ago, I think, can't remember what I was talking about, but at the end of it, I finished it. In your first 2 years, forget about all the cherry stuff that we're talking about now, because you just got to make it work. You know what I mean? You're going to need a bit of chutzpah. You need to hit the pavement. You need to knock on some doors, digitally or otherwise, and just make yourself be really uncomfortable. So that would be my advice. Be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah, be comfortable, put yourself out there. And what did you call it? A bit of shushpa.
A bit of chutzpah. What's that? It's like the Jewish thing when you've got a bit of pizzazz, or you've just got that extra little bit to get you out of the chair and do something like what we're doing now, Ross. I think actually when I first found you'd somehow spammed me on some kind of video thing, and I was like, "What the hell is this?" But I watched about 40 seconds, and you drew a triangle with your great little cartoony triangles, and I was like, "Oh, that actually resonates with me." But you had a bit of chutzpah. You could have just not, tried to find as many people as you did, and look at you now. Fine.
Oh, exactly right. And it's interesting, we were talking about LinkedIn, right? So I just Google searched you. What's the first thing that comes up in a Google search is your LinkedIn profile. And it's the same for a lot of brokers, but they don't put the work into actually tailoring it. So it's some good advice that your friend gave you. And I know for me, launching a business in COVID, I looked at the options, and I thought I'd present at PD days and do a few different things. But in the end of the day, I went down that channel and doubled down on LinkedIn. And
yeah, it's progressing beyond that as well too, mate. I can't remember what it was, but I did a deal because I posted something, and it was a private deal. It was a non-conforming loan, but I posted something, and Matty Close from IA, which got bought by Resimac, is now Resimac Asset. He pinged me. It was like, after I posted something, he was like, "Hey mate, how you going?" I was like, "Yeah mate, good. It'd be great if you guys were doing over 1.5 mil loans at the moment." He goes, "Oh mate, I've got a bit of capacity. I'll have a look at that." And then we did the deal. Do you know what I mean? So there's all these offshoots that come from it. It's been there's another. I think I posted something a while ago on I think it was on just general process, right? This is something that you do as well. You share something for people to learn from with no intention of anything more. Do you know what I mean? Hey, I'm going to share this. This is useful, and we're going to have a little video I'll put on LinkedIn later, which I want you to talk about the flow of things. But there's no hidden message behind that. Just trying to share. But then sometimes people will see what you're doing, and you'll see what they're doing, and that's how I actually found Cadam, which is now my doc collection tool, which I use. And Farzan, the creator of that, me and him talk about 3 or 4 times a week. I've pretty much made a new friend, and he's tailoring that product as we go through. And also, we've got another one to talk about a bit later, which is something I introduced you to, which is Fireflies. And you've introduced me to Loom. So there's just so much. You can go down a hole, and look, that doesn't have to be LinkedIn by any way. That could be anything. Like, I think my point is, when you asked me to come on here, and my brain does this. I just heard tech. All right, I think you said, let's do a podcast about tech. So my brain was like, yeah, cool, that sounds good. We're going to talk about other stuff, which is cool. But that was just something which I really kind of hang on to, is that tech can do so much, but if you don't know the people behind the products that they make, you don't really understand that particular product, be it, the aggregator platform, Mercury, or Sales Tracker, or Infinity. If you don't understand the people that made them and their story, or their source of truth, then you potentially don't know what that tech's supposed to be doing for you. It's just another tool to maybe not get used.
Oh, exactly right. And, as you said, stories sell, right? Stories sell. And another takeaway that I've, taken from you is, again, you put yourself out there and you network, and it's not necessarily going to get you business, but it's going to make you doing business easier. So like the example you got, where you say, oh, it'd be great if you guys did over 1.5 mil loans. And, they turn around, they say, actually, we've got capacity. And one of the things about being a top mortgage broker, as you are, is around creating those networks to do business. So whether it's the relationship, and I know in my broking career, when you become a top broker, you have access to more higher level people. And the amount of deals that I got done because I knew the state manager, or I was introduced to the senior credit people, and you could then stand behind. Obviously, it had to have
it's got to have the legs, of course, but
the legs to say, look, I used to say, if it looks like a deal, if it smells like a deal, then it's a deal. I've just got to find a way of getting it to happen. And how you get it to happen, these gray ones, is through your network. And so I think that's a great point that you make there around, yes, you put yourself out there, but you're going to meet people, and these people are going to see that sort of shushba in you, and create opportunities for you.
Yeah, I think I've got a comment on that, which is, I won't name the names of the lenders, but something's really become apparent to me in the last kind of little period, is that so a couple of head of third parties have, I've said something, or they say something, and they've said, hey, let's talk about this, right? In other words, the head of third parties, 2 in particular, are saying, what can we do better? Do you know what I mean? Like, we know that we've got competition, but they're really kind of saying, we know that we don't do everything perfect, but I'd love to hear, direct one-on-one what potentially that we can get done better. It doesn't mean they're going to change policies. In fact, there was actually one, I posted something a while ago. There was a lender who weren't sure if they were going to use the assessment rate at the time of formal approval or when it was conditionally approved. They were still sitting on the fence for whatever reason. And just put a little case forward as, it's a better consumer outcome if you're using the assessment rate that was assessed at conditional. That's just pretty clear to me. Why issue a conditional approval at 500 grand if it's going to be 400 grand at formal? That's you putting your client at risk. There's more compliance bits in there, of course, I understand, but if the broking network as a whole can have a soft influence on the lender policy or how they approach things for better consumer outcomes, that's really fun. But I'm really excited at how engaged a lot of the lenders are at the moment. I mean, we got, let's have a look at the state of play, right? We've got quick SLAs, we've got cashbacks for people staying in the same lender, literally cashback to stay, and then they can still refinance after. You've got, in my from what I'm seeing in a small little segment, I'm seeing that lenders really desperately trying to hang on to market share, try and grow market share in a declining property market, and that's, it's I don't envy their job. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's hard. That was a bit of a tangent, but it's the overall theme I'm seeing from a lot of lenders is they're really trying hard. Do you know what I mean? They're trying hard within their best that they can. Noted that, they've got to make changes because the regulators come and threaten whatever it is, or, not threaten, lightly suggest that their discretion may be softened a little bit. So it's been a really interesting time in lending.
Yeah, definitely. And as you mentioned, one of the things that's great about this industry is it's constantly changing, and every person's circumstance we deal with is a little bit different. So in terms of tech, and you touched on tech, what are you seeing that have been some of the sort of the really cool pieces of tech that have made your business easier? Right? Well, what are some of the ones that you've implemented within your business?
Yeah, that's
how have they made your business easier?
That's a good question. I thought of answering this one, and I assumed it would come up some way. I thought of answering it two ways. I could just list all the things and explain what they do, which is, useful, but it can be another medium for that. Or I can tell a story about some of the fun, cool people that I've met finding some of the new tech and how they've become really integrated into my business. Not working with, just I get a lot of fulfillment and joy for them. Or I thought about linking it to some other stuff. So I don't know which one I'm going to choose. So I'll just try and pluck one out of the bag. I think I'll start with this one because this one is fresh, right? So I was listening to something this morning by Paul Conti. He's a trauma guy who wrote a book about trauma. And I'll also loop that in with something else I was listening to before by Ed Cook, who is just this super charismatic British guy. It was a Tim Ferriss thing. I know you liked him, and he was drinking some wine. Anyway, the Ed Cook part, what he said, he's got a business which is I can't remember what it's called. It's like mastering memory, right? So he's, memory championships. And one of the parts was like, why do you want to master memory if you can just look it up? Why do you need to remember stuff if you can look it up? Easy. But his was true, the difference between true learning and understanding. Okay. So here's the example. I can probably Google every single bird in Australia or America in a bird, or walk around with a bird book, right? So I could see that what it is, list it. This is for you, Paul at Kudos. I know you love your birds. Anyway, but if I'm just able to look something up, I won't be able to understand that it's weird that an American eagle is flying around Ayers Rock. Do you know what I mean? Or where Ayers Rock is. If I don't understand what that bird is quickly and be able to put it in context and understand it, then really looking it up on a list and it's something telling me what it is of no value to me. Right. So tech has a similar play in there. And the other one was Paul Conti, which was this morning. And he was kind of saying, the question to Paul Conti was, which modality is best to deal with trauma? CBT, psychedelics, internal family systems, psychotherapy. And so he answered it with, first you need to start is a search for truth. And what is the narrative of your truth? Okay. So I'm going to use one more long-winded way before I answer the tech parts. I love this story, and I'm not allowed to, I don't think he'll do it with me, but I was having a neighbor of mine is very high in the Swedish contingent in Australia. And I asked him a couple of things about why they've got vertical integration better, right? So in other words, they don't just mine, they don't just grow the wheat, they grow the wheat, they make the flour, they bake the bread, they sell the bread, all within the one house instead of mining a material, shipping it overseas, and then bringing it back. And I said, well, mate, why can they do it better? And he gave me a 40-minute answer before he even gave me the answer. But the answer was that they're essentially socialists instead of capitalists as a nation, as a people. So it wouldn't make sense for them as a people to send all the raw materials away. They wouldn't let just, lower, a certain amount of people dictate a whole thing. So I know I'm off topic, but that loops it back to tech. What are we trying to do with tech? Do we just want, got this from you, do we want to rule? And this is my best tool, which I use, is actually still Outlook rules, right? The one I get the most value from is having bulk rules for everything from a lender back channel to go to me and specific team members, right? So I don't have to
game changer, game changer if you haven't set up Outlook rules. And I know it was a game changer for my business, but all I can say is do it, and do it for as many things as you can. And The way I used to do it was forward and file, right? And just have one inbox to filing. But keep going, Ollie.
Yeah, I mean that's the matter. So, for example, everything from Apply Online or NAB or Macquarie or whatever, and NAB poses a challenge because NABs come from the assessor on behalf of blah blah blah. So I had to create a rule that just had a certain thing in the email signature go to blah blah blah. But honestly, that is the best. As far as the tech thing goes, that's had the biggest dollar. Well, it's dollar zero, but the biggest impact on my time to step away from that. But I'll list the other ones now, and then we can circle back. But Fireflies is one which me and you just started to talk about. Message automation via HubSpot. Quickly, Cadam, Sherlock, and yeah, they're probably the main which we're just kind of bolting on. But I will tell you, because we're here, I will tell you my grand circle of how my tech will work. And look, keep in mind, I'm a little guy. When you had Otto on last week, I thought it was quite interesting. Just so your listeners know, we had Otto Dargan on. He had an amazing talk. It was, he's built something which I think no one probably will be able to replicate, to be honest. I think it's a one-off. But when he needs something new built for him, he doesn't just add it on. He'll go to his aggregator, which I think might be Mercury, I'm not sure, and they just build it for him because he's got scale. He's a big boy. He's got scale to say, hey, I need this. Can you please build it? Us little guys, we don't have that scale. We can't go to Infinity and say, hey, build it. We can't go to Podium and say, hey, build it. It just doesn't work. So we need to bolt things on. And will our aggregators let us bolt things on? Some will, some won't. They'll say, ABC, I'm not sure. Why would I? And then all of a sudden we can go around in a circle. Or we might have, anyway, I won't go off on that. That's a tangent. But I'll flip back through to the general whole for me, which is actually having HubSpot as my main CRM. Post-settlement, my aggregator platform, Sales Tracker, which I do love, being the source of all truth pre-settlement. And the reason why HubSpot is because, all my friends that I talk to, especially my tech guys, I'm like, guys, what are you using? Oh, we use HubSpot. Oh, cool. I should use HubSpot. Why? It's phenomenal. I won't go into that, but what it can do is just amazing from a contact with your client point of view. So I'll give you an example of some tech, right? So we don't have Fireflies on here now, but we probably should have. Actually, it might even be on here. So what Fireflies will do, it will transcribe my meeting with you, with Ross now, okay, after I've had it on Zoom, without me doing anything. As long as the URL is in my calendar for the meeting, it will jump on and record it. It will then send me an email transcription of our meeting 2 hours later. After that, it will then upload that into my contact, you as my contact in HubSpot, without me doing a thing, right? That's pretty phenomenal. It's still blowing my mind, that one. I just, yeah. So
it is. It's amazing, right? You think of all the usages that could be for sales team, for training, for, client conversations, for, just so much value in a tool like that, right?
So, yeah, there is, but here's the point. I mean, yeah, there is, but I'm still trying to get my head around, like, am I a better broker, or is the client getting a better outcome because of this? And I'll be honest, probably at the moment, I'm probably saying no for my deals that are right at my nose, because there's no benefit, but there will be something that comes from it later. But this loops back to the part of what are we trying to do here? What's your truth? I mean, and I wrote another thing down here. For me, some of the tech, some of the truth is I freaking love it and it's fun. So that's Fireflies for me at the moment, right? I want to use it. I'm in an accounting office today with some great guys. I've shown like 5 people. Half of them don't want to hear about it. They're busy, but I'm guys like, hey guys, look what this can do. It looks so cool. It is. It's so cool. So for me, an element of the tech, my story, part of the story of tech, is that I'm just curious and I love it. And some of these, in fact, I'll use that as a lead into how I ended up with HubSpot as my main thing. Actually, I was looking for an email solution. I thought, I'm just sick of getting jammed on email. So I found some AI called Email Tree, which is I think it's from Holland or somewhere. Anyway, they hadn't actually done anything here. They used a telco over there used it, and I reached out to them and I started trying to see what it could do. And I thought I was going to be their first Australian customer, but they started talking a language. And look, I'm actually not that good with tech. I just love it. But they started talking a language about trying to automate, AI for emails, which I don't even like doing. But anyway, they started talking about that, and I thought I need someone to translate this for me. And I'd seen this girl, Katie Shaw, on LinkedIn. She made a comment on someone's post about how to, integrate a virtual assistant well. And I read one thing. I was like, gee, she knows what she's doing. So I reached out to her, and so then I actually brought her on board to help me talk to the Email Tree guys to try and understand what their offering was and try and make that work. Now that didn't work. There was just nothing for Email Tree to do for me, and it was too expensive and it didn't work. But then when I started going through my HubSpot wormhole, I was like, okay, well, I need someone to build HubSpot now to actually talk to Sales Tracker backwards and forwards. And I don't know how to do that. So Katie Shaw's done that for me, and I'm definitely not the only broker using HubSpot. But yes, it was a way to meet someone who's able to improve my business. Yeah, and so I'll cover off the other ones too quickly. So Catum is phenomenal. It's just a really good document collection portal, which I don't use for everyone, but I find is really good. Why it's so good is there's a modern request on it, which means you basically can send the client an email and it will lead with a Loom video. So I'll send Ross an email. It's actually just a video to start with, like, hey, Ross, lovely to chat today. Here's a 90-second video on what this portal does, how it works, is what you can upload. And it's just a really smart document collection tool. That's made by a guy from Sydney. So, you know,
How do you spell that?
Kaddim.
Yeah, Catum. Okay.
Yeah, it's nice to support local, and New Zealand makes some good stuff as well. Quickly, I think a lot of people know about Quickly. Eric and Angus. Hey guys, love your stuff. They're an essential tool for me at the moment. Just for cutting out the poo-poo, to be honest. Quick, simple data. They're always improving it. A lot of aggregators at the moment can't even get. Apply online. I won't go too deep into that, but I can't remember last time I've seen something service really neatly on Apply Online. It just doesn't feel like they've kept speed, if you know what I mean. Whereas Quickly, they're beyond keeping speed. They're quick. Sherlock, I won't go through that too much here because that's phenomenal. They've kind of hit their next stripe. But see, I need a house to keep all these bolt-ons. I need a house to keep Sherlock, to keep Quickly, to keep Catum. And if HubSpot has open API for me, or aggregator software has open API, open it up, guys, to talk to these bolt-ons. For those of us that can't, get everything built for us by our aggregators, it's gonna, because there'll be other ones, right? I don't even know what they are, but there'll be other ones.
Yeah, I've heard AFG have just done a deal with Sherlock where they're sort of bolting on their back end, so they're getting up to speed. Yeah,
they've had a few other firsts. I can't remember what the other one was. I was talking to Ben at Cape. So Cape's a new. Here's an example of something, right? I don't even know what it is yet. I can't even explain it well. But Cape, one of my bankers, has moved over there, and he's a banker which I respect a lot. And if he's made a move from a tier 1 bank to a non-banking role, I was like, ooh, it made me pay attention. But he did something with Prosper. He was with Prosper, and the AFG did something. Anyway, they seem to be quite pioneering with that. So hats off to you, AFG. But I will just talk about Cape for a second as well. Cape, for me, Cape's a system where if you give them access to your Xero, right, and they will give you a credit limit, call it an expense card limit, up to a percentage of your Xero revenue. So super quick. It can do way more than that. I'm not doing it justice, but that's basically call it expense nirvana. So that's a new style of financial product available. And I'm actually going to use that for me and my wife to have a spending card linked to my business that's limited, right? So I can only go so far. So anyway, I met them yesterday. The guy's on his skateboard in his office in Manly up in Watts. So just cool people. So that's the fun stuff. And broking, answer your question, how do you get started? And broking do well. Do you know what the rules are for how you do your marketing, you get stuff, and how you have fun? There are. I can't say there's none. You can't just go knock on everyone's door, but you can do, tradie finance, the air host finance thing or whatever. There's just so fun that you can do it with people that you find cool.
Yeah, you can niche down, and that's something that I wanted to speak to you about because you're quite particular with the clients, and you want to tell your niche and your checklist before you take a deal on. You've got how many criteria? What's your criteria?
Yeah, I don't want to share it all, but anyway, I will. So I was this is maybe 2.5 years ago. I was just doing my dodo. I was just working on too many little things. So my John McCallick, my mentor, always used to say, always work on 20 things at least. I found that I was working on 40 or 50 at the same time. He always said, don't get stuck on one deal, because that's all, never give one deal all the attention, because you'll just obsess over it. But I found I was working on too many which weren't quite fulfilling me, and they were killing me. So I said, well, hang on. I went and I scored every client which I'd had on a scale of 1 to 6. When I say scale, I asked myself 6 questions on them. And I've actually been a bit slack with this recently, but it's a good point. So the first one was, were they referred?
Yeah. So first one, were they referred?
Yeah, were they referred? Were they local? Okay.
Local, yeah.
Yeah. Did they need their handheld?
Yeah.
Okay. Was it an SMSF or high LVR loan? Right. lots of paperwork or just higher risk metrics for me. And look, on that one too, that's important for me because I can only handle so much bandwidth. I stress about the client's loan same as every other broker, so I can't have every single thing at 95% LVR. I'll break. Then my family won't work. And then I think there was a minimum. Is it over 500 or whatever the amount was? And there was one. Are they in my top 100 club? So when I first started, I said, okay, what do good accountants do? They go top 100 clients, and I'll look after them extra specially. So they were the 6 questions. Anything with a 3 or under, for a while, I just politely say no, and my mentor gave me a sheet how to say no. Not just like a blank, a respectful no, and also pass them on to someone who it was suitable for.
Can you give us a script on the respectful no? Because a lot of clients...
I'll find that, and I'll find that, and I'll come back to you.
Yeah.
But I did. Can't remember 2 years ago. I made an overruling rule, right? Which was what my gut tells me. And no matter how good or big or whatever it is, if my gut tells me no, then it's a no.
Yeah, I love it. So out of the 6, right? So were they referred? Were they local? Do they need their handheld? Is it an SMS
or high LVR?
High LVR? Is it a loan size under 500,000? And do they have that potential to be in my top 100 club, right?
Or are they in the top 100 club? Because of course, if you're top 100 club or your VIP clients need a little thing, whatever, of course you do it. Or yeah. I mean, as I hear it, it sounds a bit rough, but it did help me at the time.
No, I think it's good, right? And they need a score of at least 3.
Yeah.
And again, because I think you get to a point and obviously you're one of the top brokers in the country, but you get to a point where, you've got to say no, right? You've got to get to that point where at some point you've got to say no. And it's, what will allow you to go to those next level is actually the things that you say no to.
Absolutely. So I wrote something on my whiteboard a while ago, maybe 6 months ago, and it was stay free for the good ones. Okay. And I noticed this happens with me recently. So I recently had a dip in revenue, and I freaked out. I was like, oh my God, I can't, how did this happen? I think I even spoke to you about it. And how it happened was I just got loose with my expenses through the business. I wasn't paying attention. It was my own fault, no one else's fault. But what that caused me to do was to lose track of my story, my core. And I started actually like sniffing around for the ones which didn't quite fit my profile a bit and kind of pushing them. And I created a bit of a mess. Not a huge mess for anyone that couldn't be cleaned up, but I took on some stuff, and I had to stop and realize, hang on, what am I doing? This is not how I run my business. So I stopped from that. But the stay free for the good ones is important. You can't turn around a 3.5 mil deal in 2 days or day and a half where you need everything. If you're running 6 SMSFs that need to settle in a week, you just can't. So in fact, actually something which I noticed when we have, I love your, so everyone knows your broking coach and how much thought you put into your offering is phenomenal, right? But one thing stuck with me, because I remember when you were saying, what can we do with those dollar productive activities? Or if we've done X, we have X amount to go and work on that referral or that new deal or whatever. That's the one part where I think the opposite. I'm like, hang on, I don't want to create that space for more deals. I want the right amount to keep the business running, but I want to free up that space for other X. And that might be visiting that company, and deals can come from that or whatever, but it's really freeing up time for X. That X to me is the source of life and fun and joy and happiness and experiments and stuff. So
I think I've just come up with a name for the podcast, the X Factor, how to create the X Factor, right? And so, in terms of rather than freeing up time for dollar productive activities, we're freeing up time for the X Factor. And, as you mentioned, X Factor can be time with the people that you want to hang out with and create networking opportunities.
Well, this one, mate,
time with your friends and family.
This week's is a bit of you, right? So I texted Ross the other day, I think when I was talking about a team member, and he was walking from in Ku-ring-gai National Park or further north. I think you're up in near where were you?
Yeah, I was up near Brooklyn.
That's right.
From Brooklyn to back to Hornsby way. Yeah.
Amazing. And also, so people that aren't with you know that you know, when you're off for 4 days, you're off, right? I've taken some really massive things from you, mate. I really have. I work in your 6 weeks flow, and so does my team. So every 6 weeks we have 4 days unplugged, not off, unplugged, and that's just been a massive game changer for me. I've always got something to look forward to in that. Oh, I lost the point of my story. Oh no, this week's challenge, which I have a bit of space for, because I still have a bit of time, was living just off solar energy, and the solar being a solar panel on the roof of my shitty old car that's out in the sun all the time charging a battery, and then taking these little portable batteries around and just living off solar power just for fun. If that's fun. I think we've got to do more of this stuff. We work hard, it's big transactions, we need to have fun.
I love it. And, so many people get caught in the sort of Groundhog Day. And that's why at the start I said I find you so refreshing, right? Because you think differently, you like to have fun, you understand that, hey, I need that time to be able to enjoy myself, to be able to do those things that I like. And I know that I can approach business like that, but there's that certain flow, and I know we're going to talk about this later, that you can find by doing those things, because that keeps you happy, that keeps you grounded. And you, as you said, if you go the other way and you say yes to too many things, then that stops that sort of flow that you're in.
Yeah, and I'll probably just grab up on there as well. So part of the, and this is a constant, it's to be forever evolving thing, whatever your broking world looks like. But I mean, what do some people say? Stand on the shoulders of giants. I can't remember where I hear that from. It's said a lot, but I mean, the Clem, my ING BDM, I was talking to him about something, and I was having an issue. I think it actually was where to send my excess leads, which I couldn't quite fit in that. I didn't just want to dump him. And he was like, mate, call Anthony Landell. He had a similar thing. He's done that. And I'm like, oh, call Anthony Landell. He's a Northern Beaches broker. Next Wednesday, we're having a burger and a beer. I've done that at least 4 times. And the amount of help and experience that our industry is happy to tell you on one-on-one. These are busy guys. They're not, who else was there? I won't go through names, but busy people will take an hour and a half out of their day to help you. If you're back to your early broker, do it in a good way. Don't just bang on the door and say, hey, I need you to tell me every single thing under the sun how to do a servicing calculator. No, but if you come to them with a specific thing that you're having an issue with, and you're introduced by someone that's a mutual person, you can just fast forward 5 or 6 years. You really can. You can just skip so much, and willingly, people are willing to show you what they've done wrong, or that they think they could do better.
Love it.
I've got the no thing here as well, so let me know when you want to put that up.
Yeah. Let's get back into that. I mean, I love the chat about the sort of X factor, and I said, knowing you for a couple of years now, I think that's something you really do well, and you have fun, and you like to have fun, and you really look after your own time and guard that well.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Okay,
so we were
I'll go through the no's. So
about how to politely say no.
Yeah, so this is, and Johnny McCallick is MFAA member number 5. I'm just pumping up his tires. He's a great guy. He's my he's where I landed underneath to learn not the ins and outs, but when I say not the fine detail, but how to do things as a whole, and in other words, make friends with your BDMs, have a good time. So I'm going to use probably the ones which I kind of probably have used a few times. There's 7 of them, right? And I'll email you the PDF. And this is a sheet from like 1980. It's just stuff that just works. I know I'm going to disappoint you, but ... That's I found that it's been a good way to lead it. I know I'm going to disappoint you, but I've just full of whatever it is. Another one is I can't do it justice. Expressed as perhaps as I'm really overcommitted right now, and if I take this on, I can't do it justice. Who can argue with that? That's a good one. Yes, but not now. I've never really used that one, but sure, I can help you do that. Move your sofa, but can't do it this week. Actually, no, I have used that one once a time. Like when I was in high volume, can I have a look at this refinance for me? You need to do that. I'm like, yeah, look, I'd love to, but I actually can't fit it in for 5 weeks. That deal's probably going to go away politely. And you've said that without telling someone that they're not a fit. I really appreciate you asking me, but... So tilt your head to the side. I really appreciate you asking me with a smile, but I'm afraid my time is already committed. These are so easy to read on a paper too, by the way, but when you're actually giving them to the person or via email, I cringe. I'm like, oh God, I hit send and I'm like, oh, it just feel yucky. But the result is better for everybody. They're not frustrated that you're not giving it full attention, and they get a solution from someone who's a better fit for them. You can go for your jog and, take your kids out or whatever, and it's a win. I'll email that to you, mate. You can put it in the show notes.
Beautiful. And yeah, I'd love to have that, because I think there's some really good messages there on how to politely say no. And I think that sort of preposition, when you make that initial phone call and say, hey, the role of the call today is we're going to have, whatever it is, a 10-minute chat to see how I can help. If I can't, I'm going to be pretty upfront with you, but let's just ask a few questions and see what we can do. Right. So then
that's a good one. Yeah, that's great.
Because then that gives you the right at the end to say, look, remember at the start of the conversation, I said, and then what was some of yours? Give me the first one on the list.
I know I'm going to disappoint you, but
I
know
I'm going to disappoint you, but as I said in the start of the conversation,
great.
And I feel that, I don't think, given my workload at the moment, I'm going to be able to do this deal justification. My specialty is in X.
Blah. Yeah.
This one's here. So, and again, what's the point?
That's great, mate. I love how you work in a conversation. Sometimes half of my day, I know that sounds excessive, it's exaggeration, but sometimes a big chunk of my day is about either trying to find, because I'm a broker by heart, I still want to fix the problem, even though I can't, I still want to. So it's either finding a banker at direct channel. So let's just say, I know it's a fit for Westpac, but I just don't want to go through the Westpac thing that is at the moment. So I'm like, well, I'll try and find you a mobile lender who's in your area. I can do that on LinkedIn and then say, hey, instead of walking into the branch where you may get a questionable, I don't know where you're going to, this person's okay, here's a mobile number. Boom. That sometimes takes a lot of energy to not just say, hey, can't do it. You give them somewhere else to pull on. And quite often, if you've got another broker, especially a broker, to be honest, that broker starting out, I thought about this the other day. When I first started, I was doing every deal under the sun. I really cut my teeth on everything. I had a ball. I had an absolute ball. Just can't do it now. But there are brokers out there that they're going to learn. They're going to give that client 100% attention, and they'll get a great result. So the broking system really is good because it's no one say it's designed. There's levels for every kind of consumer, every kind of broker, every kind of client. Like, it doesn't have to be a one-stop shop.
Oh, I love it. And one of the things that I sort of a quote that I sort of came onto when I was sort of in the peak of my sort of broking, but it written by a guy by the name of Thomas Merton, right? Conjectures of a guilty bystander, right? And it talks about a quote that talks about modern day violence, right? And he's saying, look, the idealist most easily succumbs to activism and overwork. The rush and pressure of modern life are a form, perhaps the most common form of violence. To allow oneself to be carried away by a multitude of conflicting concerns, to surrender to too many demands, to commit oneself to too many projects, to want to help everyone in everything is to succumb to violence, right? So it goes on to say how, look, this destroys the enjoyment that we get from work, and it affects our peace, right? So I think it's such a powerful lesson for people around that ability to say no and to really to stop the violence, right?
Absolutely. I'm just, as no one can see this, but I'm scrolling through my phone and there's some lovely pictures of you with your kids and everything on my phone. Love that. Personal service, love it, Ross. But that was by Thomas Merton, and you've texted me to that before. And just so your audience knows, me and you were going to do a little video after this for me to put on my LinkedIn. But in my brain, I'm going to scrap that. I'm going to politely ask if I can snippet this, because I think this is a good, I'll just put this on. Then two birds, one stone. But what I wanted to say, and this means a lot to me. I've got a story. Last August or whatever. I think, yeah, it would have been this time last year. I think the ABAs when they were in the entertainment center or whatever. I think that was it. Anyway, I was just really battling last year. I think everyone would tip that acknowledge that last year was just absolutely brutal. I don't give a damn what everybody settled. Well, of course I do. That's not quite true. But for me, the take home wasn't the number of settlements. It was how do we just survive to the end of the year with just what that was. That was absolutely ridiculous on so many levels. Just blah. Anyway, I was outside. I had some bad news on something or whatever. I was standing outside the ABAs, and everyone was inside having champagne. Blah blah blah. Everyone looked quite good, and I was the only person outside. But you came outside, right? I don't know how. You just saw me, and you came outside, and you either read that to me, or it was a bit blurry because I was in flight. I was just not there. But
No.
you gave me your little flow conversation. This is the part I'll probably put in my LinkedIn. So I might actually put you on the spot now, Ross, and can you explain to the broker who's having a tough time right now for whatever reason, or looking to just streamline things a little bit, about your perspective on flow and blockages? And yeah, I think that would be useful. Sorry to turn the tables. You can.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the conversation was, I don't know if I can do it. You're sort of at that point. And, to me, it's a balance, right? And I know I traveled India, and I went to Bodh Gaya, which is, where the Buddha found enlightenment. But one of the things he tried to do was starve himself, so he was like
That's
emancipated,
right.
right?
Yeah, this is the part,
And he got to, and he was in a cave where he didn't eat, and he meditated, and he thought that was the way to enlightenment, right? But it goes on, and he went to one of the places that I went to, the monuments, and he found a different way, which was the middle way, right? Which talks about, okay, he needed to eat, and he needed to have that to find the middle way. And if you're in business, one of the conversation, I think I even drew it out on a bit of a graph.
Yeah, you did. So listeners know, it looked like a pipe. So it was a pipe drawn with something above it and below it, and then also something could kind of cut the pipe in half. And you explained something at the top, something at the bottom, and blockages, just because we can't draw it out now.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I think it's around, you've got to get to be in that flow state. It's the physical stuff, right? So, you've got to get the right amount of sleep. You've got to get the right exercise. You've got to have the right diet, right? You've got to, do, whether it's your stretching or yoga or exercise. It's around your breathing. I know you're big on breathing, right?
Sex helps too.
Yeah, and exactly. And then it's around, on the other side of that pipe, it's around the mental stuff, right? So how much are you overworking? How much stress is in your life? How much are you doing practices like, your meditation or your gratitude, or you're bringing the process into your business, into your life, right? And so to get that flow, you've got to have the balance, right? And so if you've got that balance in your life, it creates flow. Where you get out of balance, where, one, maybe you're not looking after the physical, or, you're stretching yourself on the other side, and there's too much, you're sort of too much in your head, and you're not having the ability to be able to release that and to come back to the place of, as you mentioned earlier, that place of truth, the flow is going to get stopped. And you're going to get to that point where you're probably feeling a bit like you were feeling, where you're getting to that point where you burn out and you go, oh, I don't know if I can do it, right? So it's around, how can you keep your life in that flow?
Love it. Really, really good. And I said love it, just what you normally say, but it's rubbed off of me. When I say love it now, I'm like, oh, Ross, copying what he says. Mate, so what's your take here, right? So I've noticed that the coaching world, right, in broking has become a little bit bigger, right? Maybe it's just because I'm a bit more aware of it. But what do you think that what do you think the next phase of coaching and all the support network around brokers involves? In other words, I know you go to I know in your particular program, you went to see if was available was here in Australia, and it wasn't, and you went over to America and filled in some holes. But so what's your roadmap for? I know you put a lot of energy into your content, right? It's a love affair, but what's the next phase of education and coaching?
The way that I see coaching going, and I've even started internally the way I talk about coaching, it's going to go around training and implementation, right? So because it's the implementation in the business that gets the results, right? So and if you look at the different partners, then we've mentioned some tech partners that are coming on board to make it easier for you guys to implement, right? So I see coaching going more to training and implementation, and I see my business going more to, all right, it's going, if we need a coach, and let's say here's a coach on tech and process, right? We've got someone that can help with that. If we need someone to help with our sales process, we've got someone that can do
I
for
love
that.
it. You've just sports teamed the hell out of it. You got your attack coach, defense coach. Yeah, okay, I love it. That's where you're
exactly.
going.
So it's, whereas if you look at someone like the Wallabies, they just started
Let's
with.
not go there, mate.
I know, but
sorry.
I know, but I think one of the guys that I loved back in the day when we were good was Rod McQueen, right?
Yeah.
And I think he brought that into rugby, where you had the first guy to bring that sort of multiple coaches in, as well as a leadership team, right?
Yeah.
So within the business. So I think that's where I see sort of coaching going, in terms of to really, and more partnerships, right? More partnerships with tech companies and people that will set you up to win, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I see it.
Love it, mate. You just reminded me. Maybe we can wrap up on this thing. I'm not sure it's your show. I feel like I'm taking over your show. Sorry. I was at a Gordon rugby lunch down at Kirribilli. They do an annual one. Me and my mates have been going to for a while. We end up normally a little bit too drunk. I actually didn't even drink with this one. I think I was doing I actually had a breathing thing on that night. So my worlds were collided, because I was like, oh, I'm normally wasted at this Gordon rugby lunch, but I've actually got to host a breathing thing later in the night. Anyway, I did the non-drinking thing, hosted a breathing thing with a friend, and it was great. But they had Darren Coleman on, right? For anyone who watches a bit of rugby, the Waratahs didn't win a game a couple of years ago, and this year they made the finals and upset they beat the Crusaders. And I was listening to Darren Coleman wasn't there, but I think his assistant was, or someone, his replacement. That's right, Darren Coleman was the Highlanders a while before it. And so we're basically saying, what did Darren Coleman do with the Waratahs to turn them around? Okay. And I love this story. This gave me goosebumps, right? So first thing, one of the things he did, he brought and he didn't have much time. He was just thrown into the chair. He didn't have time to go and, find the perfect roster and spend his budget. He had to work with the talent that he had there. So first thing, one of the things he did, he bought a couch off Gumtree for like $40. Okay. Just a crappy old couch, and he put it in the team room. And what he did every week was he made every player sit on the couch, and he'd get the other guys to say something good that player did that they thought. In other words, not trying to beat him up. It's like, hey, sit on the couch. Everyone else, tell me something good that Ross does. What does Ross do well? That's it. And then he also got Rob Horn, who, for those who don't know, he was an ex-Waratah who was playing over in France. He got a horrific injury, and he now can't feel his left arm. In fact, he's got chronic pain in his left arm all the time. All the time. His arm is telling his brain, mate, this is 10 out of 10 pain. I'm exaggerating a bit, but probably not, actually, to be honest. Anyway, he got them and a bunch, Phil Wall, maybe, I'm not sure if that's right, but a bunch of ex-Waratahs, and they walked from like the Kangaroo Valley to the mountains or something like that. And they stayed up all night doing it. I'm not getting the details right, but it was an overnight walk. And the guys, the young guys, are there walking, going, holy cow, if these old guys can do this, then, I think I'm great and I'm all strong, but really these old guys are doing it, but they're doing it for each other. And the third thing he implemented was tar tough, the idea of being tar tough. So in other words, what he's done, I'm trying to kind of wrap this up with your coaching part. He's taken an existing team without changing really very much of it, just changing the attitude and the things where they focus their importance on. And he, if you told the Waratahs when they didn't win a game, they were going to beat the Crusaders in 9 months later, no one would have believed you. But that's pretty special. So I will be on board for your attack coach and defense coach model.
Exactly, right? Because I realize that, hey, brokers only have limited bandwidths, right? So they need help in implementing. So that's the sort of the future. But
love it.
In terms of, I asked a podcast guest the final question in terms of, if you're looking to advise someone who's sort of looking to grow and to scale their business, what's the one piece of advice that you would give them?
I'm pausing because that's a really big question. I'd ask them if they needed to.
Yeah,
I'm being quiet there. I'm being quiet there to let that kind of sink in.
Yeah.
And do you need to grow? Do you need to have 5 staff? I was talking to a couple of top brokers last week at a Eubank lunch, and we were having a crack. There's 2 girls, and they're hilarious. I love them. And there's that Buller offshore finance. We're talking outsourcing and stuff, and 2 of them were like, "Bugger, I just want to settle $4 million a month and live a good life," And these are top brokers. So, it's a bit tongue in cheek, of course, but do you need to be as big as you think you need to be?
And that's a great question, and a great question. And sometimes people get into that point though where they find themselves comfortably uncomfortable, right? You ask them more pointed questions following that. So have you been able to take a holiday with your family and to be able to switch off for any long point in time? Oh no, Ross, like I'm the only guy, I've got to do that, right? So they get to that point where they're comfortably comfortable. So it is a good point, but again, it comes back to that point. Do you want to create a business, or are you happy having a job? Right? And if your answer is I'm happy to have a job and I'm happy to earn the money and I'm happy to do that, and yes, I need to take some calls and do some stuff while I'm on holidays with the kids, and that's not what I want, that's okay. But I think some sort of deeper questions after that question can sort of sometimes uncover some more deeper pains that will go along with that.
Yeah, love it, Ross. It's been fun, man. Enjoyed this. I wasn't sure it was going to go. I'm like, now I'm looking at. I wrote it like I had a half page with some crap written down. I'm not even sure if I got there, but yeah, it's really good.
Really good. All right. Thanks, Ollie.
Thanks, Ross. I'll see you Thursday at the coaching. Cheers,
No
buddy.
worries. Well, this has been another episode of the $1 Billion Broker. Really enjoyed the conversation. If you want to subscribe, we're on all the platforms. So subscribe to the podcast. If you want to join our Facebook group, we have a private Facebook group called the $1 Billion Broker. So request to join that. Alternatively, if you want to get in contact, send us a message on billiondolarbroker.com.au, and I'd love to have a chat to see how we can help you take your business to the next level.
Can I make a suggestion? Because then Ross might not like this, but if you're in the Sydney area and you're flirting with that, just take Ross out for lunch or something like that to set what, it can, of course, I'm just taking up all his time here, but that worked really well for me. It's like anything. Start off with a lunch and a coffee.
All it'll cost you is a lunch at the butcher's block, eh?
That's right.
Love it.
Thanks, Ross.
Thank you.